Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of theresellermindset.com. And for this Reseller Friday, I want to answer your eBay questions. I gathered up 5 questions that people ask, and I'll answer a number of your questions in answering these 5 specific questions. But I think this will be very beneficial for you because many people are confused on some of these issues. And if you'll watch this video and take notes, you will get some information that can help you make more profit and help steer you away from potentially making some bad choices that could lead you to less profit or no profit at all. And so the first question is this: what's the rationale behind requiring free shipping for top rated plus status? Okay, if you're not familiar with eBay, top rated seller in the old days used to be called power seller. And now they have top rated seller, which means you live up to certain qualifications that mean you're a good seller on eBay. Top rated plus means that you meet some even more exacting standards. In this case, this person says, what is the rationale behind requiring free shipping for top rated plus status? It doesn't. It does require free returns. You do not have to have free shipping. eBay understands that if you're selling a gigantic tractor tire, you may not be able to ship that for free and still maintain your price as being one of the lowest in the market. So they've never required that. And I don't think they will because it doesn't make any sense. Maybe for small stuff it makes sense, but the shipping costs are so high now. It's not like the old days where people could afford to ship things for free and just pack that cost into the cost of the item. It's just not there anymore. You do have to offer free returns. That is what you're probably thinking about. And it is a good thing because top rated plus status gives you some discounts. It also gets you promoted better in the search results. So you'll make more sales. Now, obviously, this means you have to have quality items that people actually want to buy. But if you do, you'll get in front of more eyeballs and you'll get more sales potentially. And before you buck at the idea of offering free returns, people are going to scam me. What I experienced was very different than that. I was nervous. I'll admit it. I was like, well, I don't know about this. But I turned free returns on all my items, and I have thousands and thousands of items. And I was concerned at first. I said, I'm just going to try this out. If it doesn't work out well, if it starts going downhill, I'm going to turn it off. I thought it would boost my return rate. I thought more people would take advantage and try to get free returns. The exact opposite happened. My returns went down. And in some cases, I sell things that are very breakable, vintage electronics and things. And it doesn't matter how well you pack those things. If you've shipped them, they work perfectly. You ship them to somebody and they arrive not working. And they worked. But there's little belts, there's little plastic pieces in there. It's getting shaken during transit. Sometimes a 30-year-old piece of plastic or a rubber band that's a belt inside snaps or comes loose and it doesn't work anymore. There's nothing you could do with shipping those things. So I thought I'd get more returns. But what happened was I got less returns. And my theory is, of course, eBay has never stated this, but my theory is that when you ramp yourself up to a top-rated seller plus status, eBay starts putting your items before better customers. They know all kinds of data points about your customers. And when you're a lower rated seller, I think they send you some of that traffic that is more likely to return stuff. They have more problems. They leave more negatives. I think you get a worse clientele by not being a top rated plus status seller. So I would encourage you to do it and to do it immediately. But obviously it depends on your business and your business model. So look into all the factors, because right now you do not have the right information because you don't even know that free shipping is not required. So get in there, read the actual terms, and I would encourage you just try it out. If it works well for you, great. If it doesn't, don't offer free returns and move on. The second question is, having achieved significant sales volume, could you share some key strategies for boosting sales? I've sold hundreds of thousands of items over the years, and the most obvious, and it seems so plain, but people don't do it, is to get better quality items. I cannot emphasize that enough. Get better quality items. You can go to your thrift stores, your garage sales, your estate sales, and whatever, and buy little $5 and $10 items, and you can get some sales from those things. But you got to think about it this way. The same amount of time it takes to list a $5 or $10 item is the same amount of time it takes to list a $30 or $40 or $50 item. why not have your time invested in listing the highest value items you can? And of course, it doesn't matter if an item's worth $30 or $40 or $5 or $10 if nobody wants it. So make sure it's actually desirable, it has a good sell-through rate, and buy those items and list them. And this is important. Besides getting good quality items, which is a good idea, obviously, list the items. There are people all over the place as resellers who have death piles. They have stuff piled up that they're not listing, and they go out and source and buy more stuff just to put in the pile and not list. You're not in some sort of junk storage business. You need to have good quality items that you list so you can get sales. As long as they're sitting in a pile, no one's going to buy them. You got to get them listed. So make sure you get the items you purchase listed. And that's how you're going to get more sales. And really, that's pretty much it, except for, I would add, make sure your prices are good. I see people going on, the market rate for an item is $30, and they put it for $40 and say, well, I'll just take offers. People are not going to waste their time going to you and bartering to get you down to the market price. They're just going to go buy the $30 product from the person who has it at a fair price, and they're going to ignore you. Make sure your prices are reasonable and what the market is actually willing to pay, and get your items listed. The third question is, in your experience, is eBay the optimal e-commerce marketplace, or should I consider alternatives like Mercari, Depop, Etsy, Amazon, etc.? Well, they all have different purposes, kind of. Some of them are kind of clones of eBay, and I sell on all those platforms, so I'm an expert at many of them. I've sold more on some of those platforms than the vast majority of top 1% sellers have. And I will say this, in many cases, eBay gets more traffic in a single day than some of those platforms do in an entire year. Actually, in some cases, some of those platforms combined get an entire year. So there's a massive amount of traffic on eBay. I know it's fallen out of favor in some people's eyes, but it's a massive marketplace and it does very well. I've been on there for decades. I'm not here to praise eBay. It's just a good marketplace. I don't have very many issues there. I've had more issues with some of those smaller ones. It's a good marketplace. There's a lot of traffic there. Most of the customers are pretty good. And I think it's the best marketplace for most things. It does depend on what you're doing. Amazon is more of a volume place. That's where you sell things in volume. The issue with Amazon and selling on Amazon, it's not bad, but it's just something you have to understand, is generally your profit potential is less. The type of model you have to run, trying to get the buy box, and being the absolute lowest at all time, and having your repricer running to keep you 1 penny lower or whatever, it drops the market value for an item really low, and you got to get your item into Amazon quickly so it can get sold quickly before other people find that item and start selling it at a lower price. It's just a big battle, and you don't have that as much on the other places, especially eBay. But you can move a lot of inventory on Amazon, so it is a place to consider depending on what you're selling. So I can't give you a perfect answer for that because it really depends on what you're selling. If you're selling something handmade, Etsy might be your better place. If you're selling high-end designer clothing, Poshmark might be your better place. You didn't even mention that site. Although I've sold puzzles and board games on Poshmark too. So there's all kinds of places you can sell. Really, it's what you like best, what you seem to get the best results from. That's where you need to start. But I would say do not leave eBay out of the mix because it is a huge marketplace. It gets a lot of sales and you can make a lot of money selling on it. The fourth question is this. Given the time investment in photo background editing, what is the more efficient approach? Utilizing stock images or continuing manual edits to make the backgrounds white? Well, neither. First, you can't use stock images unless you're authorized by the person who made those stock images and the website or company who commissioned them to use them. It's against eBay's terms, plainly. So don't use stock images. Now, if you're talking about using stock images, like for example, if you list a DVD, eBay has its built-in stock images, which of course you can use. You have authorization to use those. No, I wouldn't use those either because it doesn't show that you have the product in hand. And you're just going to be competing with all the other sellers who are too lazy to put a picture and they just use a stock image. And so you're going to stand out if you have a real picture of the item. As far as editing the background and making it white, that is something that was a long time ago. eBay mentioned that and said you need to do that. They still have videos on their website saying to do that. You absolutely do not need to do that. The reason that was suggested, and nobody seems to understand this, is because eBay was trying to get their AI, their image matching software, and Google as well, to work with the images you're providing. So if somebody takes a picture of a board game, they can get results for that board game. And so having a perfectly white background was best for the software to be able to filter out all the background information that's not needed. And Google required that as well. They used to call it, I think it was called graffiti, having other things in the background and stuff. It doesn't matter anymore. Now, you don't want to have just your dishes in the background or your clothing hamper in the background either, but you don't need to have white backgrounds. I've been in thrift stores and I'm taking a picture using Google Images or eBay's search feature of a mug with a bunch of other mugs around it, a cluttered background, it's in the center, and eBay's search finds it perfectly. Their software is better now. It doesn't require a white background. You want your background to be clutter-free, of course. You want your background to be generally a solid color. Now, I'll give you an example. I sold some expensive children's like outdoor toys, John Deere type stuff, die-cast, old vintage stuff. And normally I'll just have them in a white background in my photo box. It looks great. But I thought, these are kind of neat. I put them out in the grass and took pictures of them on the grass. Now, I also had pictures of them without any kind of thing in the background, but it just stands out. Everybody else has this blank stock image looking photo, and mine shows it out there like an actual John Deere piece of equipment that the children would be using it out in the grass or whatever playing. It just looked better. It popped. It stood out, and that gets you more sales. But I would not waste a ton of time doing things you don't need to do and wasting all this effort on, I got to edit this background. It's a lot of time wasted. You can list more items in the same amount of time you're wasting editing backgrounds out. And I know the software has gotten good and it can just, for the most case, pretty much edit it out almost automatically. I still don't think it's worth your time. It doesn't matter. Get a good quality background. Gray generally tends to do good. You don't want to also look like a stock image. You want your image to look like something you have in hand, something that is actually there and they're actually going to get the item that they're seeing in the pictures. So if your pictures look too much like a stock image because you've edited the background out perfectly, you got it perfectly white, it might actually discourage sales because it looks like this is just some stock image. Maybe this is a drop shipper. This person may not even have this item in hand. It might be a problem. I'll just buy from the other person who has this picture. It's not very good, but I can at least see that they actually have the item. So that is something to consider. And the fifth and final question is, I'm considering a bulk purchase of a pallet of books. Would you advise pursuing this specific opportunity or exploring other wholesale options? Well, I don't know if that's wholesale option in the first place. If you're talking about a pallet of used books, you're probably getting it from third-party middleman, and the question doesn't give me enough information. It could be a great deal, but I'll tell you, most book lots, especially pallets of books, have been heavily picked through. They've been cherry picked, and you're going to get a bunch of stuff that's not worth a whole lot. Now, you could get a great deal. Like I said, I don't have enough information about what you're buying, but I've seen all kinds of book lots, including buying a 60-foot trailer load full of books. So I know a lot about books and reselling books, and most cases in these kind of deals, whether they call them wholesale or whatever, most of the time these are not the best deals for you. You'd be better off hand-picking stuff in flea markets and thrift stores and antique malls and wherever. And here's a tip on that. On books, a lot of resellers are lazy. A lot of people in general obviously are lazy, but a lot of resellers are very lazy. They'll get their little scanners, they go through, they're scanning all these books. Many of them will just skip past books without barcodes. And they're skipping past the things that are worth the most potentially. Be the person who invests a little bit of time in actually looking up books that are old. You'll find so much value. The most expensive book I think I got was from a Goodwill for $1.99. It was a hardback book, didn't have a barcode, didn't have an ISBN, but I looked it up and it was worth over $700, and it sold within like a week. So it was real simple, easy money. There were resellers in that Goodwill because I talked to them. We're friendly, you know, we're not competing with each other because I'm on a whole nother level, so I don't care what they do. They went through the bookshelf. They went through that book and they didn't see a barcode to scan. They didn't see an ISBN, and they just put it aside and kept on looking for more things to scan with their little scanners. And listen, that is efficient. I get it. But they skipped past $700 profit. I think it was $755 it sold for finally. So over $700 profit, roughly, maybe a little less. Anyway, they missed a lot of profit just because they wouldn't put a little bit of effort in. Put the effort in. Go find some good books. Get good at it. Maybe you can consider that pallet of books, but if you're not very knowledgeable and you don't have a manifest, you just got a random pallet of books, I've seen this happen so many times. You might get a real bad junk load of books that maybe nothing in there is worth anything. It's just all mass market paperbacks or cookbooks that aren't worth anything. Just really bad inventory that you would never buy in the first place. And in many cases, some of those pallets I wouldn't take for free because it's not even worth the hassle of going through them all to find the rare book or two in there that is even worth anything. You know, in the old days, there would be a scam run when people were in the gold age. They were trying to get gold, and a mine would get used up. All the gold and silver and everything was pretty much found in it. And the scammers would go in, they'd buy these mines that were useless. They would fill their shotgun shells with some gold and shoot it on the walls. So a potential buyer of the mine would come in and go, oh, look, there's gold. There's gold in the walls. I got to buy this. It's called salting the mines. And sometimes you'll find these pallet lots, maybe on the top, they'll put some books that are $30, $40, $50 or whatever to get you interested. Oh, look at that. If those are on the top, what else could be in there? And they're just salting the mines. Sometimes a different way of salting the mines that I've seen some of these companies do, and I'm giving you some vital information here that will save you thousands of dollars and all kinds of hours of wasted time on junk inventory. Sometimes what they'll do is they will sell you a good lot. You'll get a good pallet of books. There's actually some good stuff in there. You make some profit. Everything's good. You buy another one. Everything's good. Like, this is a perfect source. I got this new source now. It's great. And then they'll say, well, we don't have any more pallets, but we have a Gaylord or we have a truckload full. And if you'll buy it, we'll give you a really good deal. And you're thinking, well, okay, I'll go take a loan out because these have been making me money. These are great items. I'm going to get a great deal here. And that's when they unload all the junk, all the books that you couldn't sell in a million years, all the books that are worth $1 and just no one's going to ever buy from you. And you get a whole entire truckload of books that aren't worth anything. You know, I was very blessed that I bought a truckload of books that were great and I made tremendous amounts of money from it, but it was still a lot of work. You need to get out there and find good books if that's what you want to sell. Maybe you don't even want to sell books. Maybe it just seemed like a good deal to you. It might be a good deal. I don't know. If you want to personally send me the deal, I'm not going to take it from you or anything. I'm not interested. You don't have to send me a link to it. You can send me pictures of what is being described or whatever. I'm not trying to get your deal. But if you want me to help you, I'll look at it and I'll give you my years of wisdom and what I think, what my gut feeling is on it, if that's a good deal or not. Of course, you got to do your due diligence, but in most cases, those deals are just not worth buying. And I'm not trying to be a downer on that. Just get out there and do the work. I know everybody wants the easy way. They want their inventory just hand delivered to them, and it is great. But get out there and do the work. If you just do a little bit more work than the average reseller, you'll make so much more money. Like I said, many resellers are lazy. They won't even look up books that don't have a barcode or don't have an ISBN. Most of them will not even do the ISBN thing. They're not going to waste their time typing in a few numbers. But they're definitely not going to even waste any time if it doesn't have a barcode or an ISBN. They just move on. I've seen that so often. There's profit out there on every store, even at Goodwills, even at regular thrift stores, at garage sales especially. There's a lot of profit out there. You're just going to have to put the effort in. And you'll start to get good and notice what is valuable. Notice what is more potentially valuable. And you'll just immediately start like honing in, like you're attracted magnetically to those profitable items where other people are just mindlessly scanning and don't have a clue what they're doing. It's kind of like using a GPS. You can use a GPS to take you everywhere, But if you don't remember anything about where you went, you're just mindlessly following software, you never really build a skill. You don't build an idea of where this street is and that street is. And many resellers are that way because they've been scanning and they don't really think, they don't really observe what is valuable. And why is this thing not valuable? Why is that thing valuable? They never really build up and become a person who can just swoop in and see, okay, that book's probably profitable. Let me look it up. They just are mindlessly scanning away. And I'm not telling you to not be one of those people who scans. Scanning's perfectly fine. It's a great way of doing it. But you also need to put some effort into looking up some of those items that have more potential because they don't have a barcode and they don't have an ISBN. And realistically, you only really know if those things are valuable by looking them up. And after enough time, you build up the data in your mind. You just kind of know this has potential, this doesn't. And you'll get better at it. You'll make better buying decisions. And you won't even need a pallet of books that may or may not be ideal for your business. So my friend, I hope I answered these questions well for you. I hope I gave you a lot of good information. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I would be happy to hear them and I'll answer them for you the best I can. I've been reselling for decades now and you can make good money out there and I want you to make good money. I want to help you in that endeavor. And for me, I believe that eBay is one of the best marketplaces to sell on for most people. Obviously, each marketplace has its own pros and cons, but eBay is one of the best for resale. And you can do your best on there. If you just take some of this information I gave you and run with it, you can make great sales, make great profit, and do very well. I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.